On. Okay, welcome everyone. We're starting a new series here about creating wealth, especially for physical therapists and people in the medical profession, which I think you and I will both agree that we both need that in physical therapy.
Mm.
Coming from PT and wealth, those are two words that we don't really associate, that really talk about too much, but we're going to go about wealth. And this all really started like a year or two ago when Michael and I went to a conference. And if you follow my stuff, I go by the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. But we went to this conference and they said it's so simple and so good that wealth is created three ways: business, stock market, and real estate. And that's what got us thinking together and started to, kind of brainstorm. And we talk about wealth all the time, pretty much, and
Mm.
different strategies to do that. But today we have a guest, Dr. Michael Fabrick. He's one of the colleagues who works at Pursuit with us. But we have him on. He's going to talk about real estate and his strategy of house hacking, which some of you may not really know about. So, Michael, if you don't mind, take a few minutes, introduce yourself, and just explain to our followers and people listening how you got involved in real estate.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. I'm
Yeah, no
excited to
problem.
get to share about this a little bit. It's a passion of mine. So as you said, I'm Michael. I work at Pursuit with Ron. Ron and I actually went to rival schools back home in Pennsylvania, so we have an ongoing rivalry
What
there.
a small world.
I know. But born and raised in Pennsylvania, went to Slippery Rock University for undergraduate school in exercise science, and then graduate school for physical therapy. And after graduating from PT school, I moved to Orlando. And the reason I moved to Orlando was to work on the professional tennis tour. So I got hired on by a professional tennis player traveling as their private physio kind of around the world, just to different tournaments, and kind of joined both of my passions of tennis and physical therapy. And then I had my first athlete retired from tennis, and that's when I met Ron here in Orlando, looking for kind of an interim spot to work, and it's just um, become full time now, and I love it. It's been awesome, and like Ron said, we've talked a lot about building wealth and using physical therapy in in that journey. I think that's something that oftentimes PTs, and this is not everyone, but PTs don't do a good job of marketing themselves and of wanting to build wealth or building wealth. And so I'm excited just to step into that journey with you and
I
teach
mean,
others.
again, I really think PT and wealth are two words that aren't really used together. I mean, it goes back
Mhm.
to when I first started Pursuit and I reverse engineered my numbers and I'm chilling with my father-in-law and I look over him, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know what I finally did is I'm gonna make 125 a year. And he looks at me with a serious face and goes, why not a million? And my head just blew up because I never
Yeah.
associated Ron Miller with millionaire.
Hmm.
It's partially just a mindset. I think a lot of PTs are great people who just want to help people, and we're stuck in that employee mindset, and we don't really think about wealth or what's beyond
Yeah.
just working a job 9 to 5 and being an employee. And you and I know from all the books we read and all the strategies and seminars that we've taken that, it's like it's hard to be wealthy when you're just an employee or just an individual. You have to branch out and have other strategies, tapping into real estate, stock
Hmm.
market, business, and stuff like that. So, how did you end up getting involved in real estate in general?
Yeah, I kind of have always been interested in it. My brother, and I have two older brothers, and one of them, I initially I thought he was an idiot because he was in school, he was in college. He's 2 years older than I am, and already in a lot of debt from school. And I found out, I think in his sophomore year of college, he bought a house and went into even more debt. And my upbringing, and I'm sure a lot of other listeners here, their upbringing is like, don't go into debt, work a good job, get your 401k in order, retire at 65, and just play it safe, buy things with cash, especially if you grew up in the Dave Ramsey world as well, which, he has a lot of great things to say. But just that is not one of the things that you do. And so I grew up with that mindset, and he bought a house, was already in school debt, got into more debt, and I was like, man, you're you're an idiot. This is stupid. And then a few months later, I was talking to him and I realized he was getting paid $500 a month to live in his own house. And so I started asking more questions, and from there on
Or
ensued,
status.
yeah, from there on ensued just a bunch of learning and researching and watching videos and talking to people that I know who are in real estate. So that's kind of the short and sweet of how I got interested in it, and it kind of exploded from there.
Nice. So on a basic level, how is wealth created in real estate in general? Like most PTs and even myself, we don't have a lot of experience in like real estate besides just buying a house or an apartment or a condo and your mortgage payment plus everything else is $1,000. You charge 1,500 and you get $500 coming in. You know, besides that basic stuff, why do people keep saying you can create wealth in real estate? Like, are there other benefits in or other tools that allow you to create wealth in real estate?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And you mentioned it earlier. I mean, you and I talk to a lot of financial advisors. You have some in your family, patients of mine I talk to about this stuff often. And each time the consistent theme is that wealth is built one of three ways: the stock market, building business and selling it, and then real estate. And so I feel like in American culture, especially, we've heard so much that real estate's a good investment, but why is it a good investment? And kind of the short and sweet of it is there's four main wealth building tools of real estate. And so the first one is appreciation. So why even buy a property or buy an asset? It's that assets, and specifically real estate as an asset, tend to go up in value over time.
Okay.
Most things that you buy, cars, for instance, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. Spare a few types of supercars that actually do raise in value after you buy them. 99% of cars, they decrease in value. And so that's something that sets real estate apart, is over time. The statistic is that over the last 50 years in the US housing market, houses appreciate about 3% per year. Sometimes they go down, of course, but over the long term, over a course of 50 to 100 years, it tends to go up in value. So that's appreciation. And so that's the first wealth building tool of real estate, or why someone would want to invest. Second one is loan pay down. So the idea of real estate is you buy a property and you have someone renting it from you, whether it's a single family home or a huge commercial building or a strip mall or an apartment complex, whatever it is. You're buying it, someone's renting it from you. And so they're actually paying off the loan for you. And so that's where you get the equity spread of your property is appreciating in value, and then you're paying down the loan over time. And so you're gaining more and more value in the property as time goes on. And you're not even doing anything. You're just letting someone else buy it for you, and you're letting time do its thing and raise in value. And so those are probably the most powerful. And then the third wealth building tool of real estate is cash flow, and that's what most people think of when they think of making money from a property. Is you have your income that you're getting from rent, you have your expenses, you're paying your mortgage each month, you're paying to maintain the property, utilities to fix it, all the things. And so you have your income minus your expenses, and the difference is the cash flow. And that's the instantaneous money that you're getting each month, not the long-term wealth. And then the fourth one is tax benefits. And this is,
There
yeah,
you
boom.
go.
That's, I mean, you could argue that's the biggest one. They're all four equally important, but love the guy or hate the guy. This is why Donald Trump is so successful, and why also he doesn't pay very much in taxes, is because the biggest thing is depreciation. So I mentioned appreciation, a property going up in value. Well, depreciation is one of the biggest tax benefits, and there's so much more, but depreciation is the idea that over time your property is decaying. There's entropy, right? And so the government will give you tax incentives and allow you to depreciate your property and claim a tax incentive um, for it as well on the front end of when you purchase it. And so that's how you could make $400 million in a year and still not pay taxes, because you've depreciated your property so
Yep.
much. And
That's
there's a lot more to that, but that's
yeah.
the simplest way I could describe it.
That's great stuff there. I mean, that's awesome. Keep it simple and just like four different modes of creating wealth via real estate. It's a lot more complex than just you paying this and getting this and rent and that's it. So that's awesome stuff. So
Mhm.
what before we get into house hacking and what house hacking is, besides like commercial and residential, what do you feel like what is the main types of real estate investments or strategies from a macro level? I mean, most people just know commercial and residential. What are the different types of real estate investments and where does house hacking fit into that?
Yeah, another good question. I think so. Commercial and residential real estate investing, that's what we would call buy and hold or long-term real estate investing. There's people who do fix and flips. You buy a home, you fix it up, it raises the value of it, you sell it for a profit. That's another popular strategy in real estate investing. You have short-term rentals, which would be buying a property and using something like Airbnb or Furnished Finder or VRBO and renting out short term. There's tax lien investing, a whole slew of different kinds. Real estate investing is the umbrella term, but the most popular are commercial and residential, either buying a single family home and then renting that out long term, or a commercial building with retail space or restaurants, or apartment buildings would be commercial, considered commercial as well. So
So let's get into the bread and butter. What is house hacking?
yeah. So house hacking it's pretty simple. It's using your primary residence as an income generating property. And kind of more on how I stumbled into it. I talked about my brother and seeing him do it well. And then also it stemmed from a necessity on my end where I had moved here to Orlando. I was traveling on tour and I was paying rent to not live somewhere essentially. And so, yeah, just tried to figure out a better way of how can I decrease my expenses and not pay for somewhere that I'm not even using. And so that is what caused me even more so to jump into house hacking. But essentially, it's using a primary residence as an income generating property. So for me, the strategy that I chose was I bought a single family home and I lived in one bedroom and rented out the other bedrooms for young professionals like myself. And most real estate investors, especially the gurus who are multi decade millionaires, they actually started out house hacking. It's more of a newer term, but the idea and the strategy has been going on for a long, long time. Where the first time they ever got into real estate investing, they bought a property and they couldn't afford it, so they rented out to roommates, and that's probably the simplest version. And so it just made sense. And house hacking is not just renting out rooms, but it could be buying a duplex or buying a triplex or a quadplex, which are all considered residential properties, and living in one unit and renting out the other units for income.
Do you have to live in it? Like,
To Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, you said that term multiple times. So do you have to live in the unit to be able to house hack?
For it to be considered house hacking, yeah, you would have to live in the property. And just to kind of get into the difference, we talked about real estate investing and now house hacking. And house hacking is a type of real estate investing. Where it differs and why it's called hacking is because normal real estate investing, when you buy a property and you go to rent it out to someone, because you're not going to live in the property, especially if you're not going to buy the home in cash, which most people are not going to. They're going to get a mortgage and pay on it monthly. And to get a mortgage, you need to have a down payment. If you buy a property as a rental property, you have to put 20% down unless you're doing certain creative financing options, which most people don't know about, and it's very hard to do. If you don't, most people are going to put 20% down on the property. And so there's a very high barrier of entry. And that's why most people don't do it, because they don't just have a ton of money laying around in their bank account. I think the average home in America right now is around $400,000 is median. And so if think about if you're buying a property for $400,000, you have to put 20% down. That's $80,000 that you have to come up with just to get into a property. And
Yeah.
then hopefully get it rented out. It's a high barrier of entry. Some people will do it, but most people will not. And so the benefit of house hacking is because you have to live there, the bank will also give you better terms on the loan, and they allow you to put a lot less money down. You can put as little as 3.5% down on your home using something like an
Oh
FHA
my
loan.
goodness, that's huge.
Yeah.
I
And
did not know
so,
that.
right. And that's one of the biggest hacks of it. If you promise the bank you'll live there, instead of 80 grand, in the same example, it's like 14,000, 15,000, something like that is 3.5% of
Nice.
400,000. And so right there, that lowers the barrier of entry for so many people. And the other aspect of it is it's much lower risk because again, if you buy a property for 20% down, you rent it out. What if it goes vacant for a few months? Now you're actually losing money. If you compare this to a business or the stock market, right? The other wealth building strategies, the stock market, if you're not making money, you're losing money, bad investment. Same thing in real estate. If you buy a home and you're not making money, you're actually losing money, bad investment. Versus a house hack, you're going to live there anyways. You're going to pay rent anyways. You're going to pay a mortgage anyways. So even if you're losing money, you're actually doing okay. And
Yeah.
then if you have someone renting from you, it's just butter on top.
So what are the other differences or benefits of house hacking versus doing like an Airbnb or buying like a single family home and just having like a long-term rental in there? What are other benefits of house hacking besides that, which I did not even know about, but that's awesome that you can get in at 3.5 or a less interest rate or a down payment to start. That's huge. What are some other benefits of house hacking?
Yeah, so I call it the training wheels of real estate investing, where it's again low risk, where you, even if you're not good at it, you're still going to pay the rent and or mortgage anyways to live somewhere. And so you can kind of trial and error and not be so great at it at first and still come out on top. And then it doesn't just have to be, like I said, renting other bedrooms. It could be if you're if you're married with kids, house hacking is still again using whatever primary residence you have as an income generating property. And so if you have a duplex, which is two separate units, you can live in one unit with your family and not have to share space at all and rent out the other unit. And you could still do the rent by the bedroom strategy and make a little bit more, or you could Airbnb it out. You could rent to young traveling physical therapists or physicians or PAs. And
Yeah.
so you get to use a couple different strategies. You could fix and flip it if you want to and get still the low money down payment on the front end because it's your primary residence. So you really could use any strategy within the real estate investing umbrella. It's just a hack because you're able to get it for a lot less money down.
So you just said something, you can increase revenue. I think you said something like that just in the last minute. So by renting out per bedroom, can you increase the revenue generated by that property and increase cash flow? Is that another
Correct.
strategy?
Yeah, it is. And there's a guy by the name of Craig Kurlop that came up with this terminology of the comfortability profitability continuum, where from a house hacking perspective, on one end of the continuum, you have the most amount of income and the least amount of comfort. On the other end of the continuum, you have the most amount of comfort and the least amount of income. And so on this end of the continuum, where it's most income, least comfort, would be something like what I do, where I share my common area spaces. I share the living area, the kitchen, the bathroom. I live in one bedroom. I have that as my own space, but I rent out the other bedrooms. And as you move further down the continuum, a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex, where you have your own space, but you share the walls with your tenants. A little bit more comfort, but a little bit less profit. And then all the way on the other end of the continuum, the example that Brandon Turner uses and does. He has, I think, 3 or 4 kids and is married, and he lives in a single family home, a $3 million home, and has a separate detached garage with an apartment above it. and he rents out the apartment. And he lives in Maui, so it goes for quite a bit of rent. And so he's probably not cash flowing. He's probably not making more than his mortgage, but he's supplementing, and he'd have to pay for the mortgage anyways. He'd have to pay to live anyways. So even if he's supplementing a piece of it, he's still crushing it. He's still winning.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome. That's cool. So yeah, so if like just say your mortgage is like 2 grand, and if you just choose like a long-term rental, maybe you'll get 2,500 a month. But like renting individual rooms, if it's you plus like it's a 4 bedroom place and you're renting out per room, you may be able to get 3 grand a month of
mhm,
revenue coming in. So is the house hacking game all about cash flow? It's like your goal not only to tap into appreciation, tax benefits, and that
mhm.
game, but it's really making the numbers work so you're cash flow positive every month. So not only are you getting your rent paid for and the mortgage paid for, but you want to be cash flow positive.
Yeah, so I would say it depends. For me, my goal is yes. As someone who is young, I'm not married, I don't have kids. My goal is to get as much cash flow as property. I'm okay taking a step back with a little bit of comfort level. I don't need my own house to myself necessarily. I don't need all the bells and whistles. My goal is to get as much cash flow as possible, and then the long-term goal is to have the ability to retire early. Not that I would retire. I love treating patients and being a PT, but to have the option to retire frees up so much stress, a lot of financial stress, and gives you the ability to say no to things that you want to say no to, or say yes to what you want to say yes to. So in my shoes, yeah, the goal is to be cash flow positive. But with house hacking, it gives you the freedom to choose. And I'll give you an example. I had someone that I helped get
Mm.
into a house hack, and I think they were paying a little over $1,000 a month to live in their apartment. And they bought a house. They started house hacking, renting out the other units of their property, and they started breaking even. They were paying a certain amount of money for their mortgage each month, and the rent that was coming in was the exact same as their mortgage. So they weren't cash flowing, they weren't making money on the investment, but they completely eliminated their living expense. And in America, the average person spends 30% of their income on either rent or mortgage on their living expense. And so oftentimes we're so focused on
Mm.
cutting out our daily Starbucks habit or not eating out as much and doing all the things that make sense to us to try to limit what we're spending. But what if you could, within one fell swoop, start house hacking and you eliminated 30% of your spending? Now that frees up so much money to then put more into investments or take your family out to a vacation every year that you weren't able to do. It frees up so many things, and that's just breaking even. He was spending 1,000 a month. Now he's breaking even. So think about, he's not spending that 1,000 anymore, and so
Mhm.
that's 12,000 extra dollars he put back in his pocket each year. And so in traditional real estate investing, that's not a win. You bought a property, you're not making any money. Bad idea. Same thing in the stock market. Bad idea. But in house hacking, great idea. That's a
Yeah.
win.
And
Um,
technically, we're always talking about the cash flow quadrant and stuff like that, but you're technically your house is an asset. That's not a liability like
that's
mine.
that's right. That's right. And that's
I mean,
maybe it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
If
Because
you've
like
ever read,
another thing you said, because my mind instantly goes, why didn't I do this in college? I mean, no college person, undergrad probably has the wherewithal or the cash flow, the capital to start this.
mhm,
But you said something too. It's like you target young medical professionals, PAs, PTs, nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians, people that are going to be traveling and doing residencies. You can park your space not by a college and just get college kids renting, but you could park it in a out by a city, a hospital or something like that, and target a more attractive renter and go after these
exactly.
people that aren't just going to have a party and trash your place. So that's interesting too there, stuff like that. So
Exactly.
um next question. You said that house hacking is perfect for PTs. Why?
Yeah, I think in my own experience, and just you'll know this being a physical therapist, you you go through a lot of schooling. You go through 4 years of undergraduate school, you go through 3 years of physical therapy school, and you have your doctorate degree, and the starting salary is probably what, 70,000 nowadays in America. Maybe some of my classmates, I think, started out making less than that. And even still, when you're in the career for a long time, there's a cap. You're not really going to make a ton of money. You'll make a good living in
I
America,
mean,
but
like you and me are almost the same age anyway. You know, we're like still young and active, but I think I started out at 55. Now I did have a pay decrease because I did the residency, but yeah, you know, people our age and stuff like that. So
young guys like us.
young guys like us. So yeah, why
Um,
is house hacking such a good idea for PTs?
yeah, so essentially, you go through a lot of school with good money, but not great money compared to a physician who goes to school for maybe a little bit longer, but makes a lot more money. And so, as a physical therapist, and most of the PTs I know are looking for other ways to make money, depending on where you live, especially if you're living in an expensive area. Sometimes you're doing work on the weekends as something else, or maybe if it's not another job altogether, maybe you're treating on the side and taking patients privately. So all that to say, I think you can easily get into a mindset of shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh, I'm going to chase this really good idea. I'm going to make extra money here, and then you pursue it, and I don't have any passion for it anymore. Or you pursue this other business, you pursue this other thing to make a little extra money, and then you kind of get burned out, or maybe you pursue it halfway. House hacking, I think, is so beneficial because it is a little bit of a shiny object, but it's not a full time thing that you're doing. It's an investment that, yeah, you put a little energy on the front end, but it can become pretty passive, and it can eliminate a lot of your expenses. And so, as a physical therapist who went and did a lot of schooling, is not making amazing money, and you're probably looking for other ways to make money or cut down expenses, house hacking is one of the quickest ways to do that. Like I said, instead of cutting out your daily Starbucks habit, why don't you just eliminate your living expense? And I use the example at $1,000 a month. Most people are paying a lot more than that for their living expenses. And so
And
that
what's your
right,
age right now?
what's my age?
Yeah.
I'm 28 right now.
How many properties you own?
I have three right now.
That's badass. That's that's pretty awesome, man. So that's awesome.
And so
Um,
the goal is essentially, at least mine anyways, is to I started when I was 25, and I wanted to acquire a house each year to live in it, get a property for low money down, move out of it after a year. It becomes a rental property. So remember, normally it takes 20% to get a rental property. Well, I put 5% down. I got it for 5%, way less than normal. And then it becomes a rental. I move out of it into another house hack. I just got a rental for a 15% discount,
yep,
um, and then rinse and repeat each year. So the goal is to have five by the time I'm 30, and I'm on track.
that's awesome. Well done. Can I please be invited to your $1 million debt party?
You're already on the guest list.
Yes, I'm on the guest list. That's awesome. So this is probably overwhelming for a lot of people still. What are like three books that you would recommend for other PTs? Maybe look into this, read up on it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, specifically for house hacking, one of the ones that I read was called The House Hacking Strategy by Craig Curlup. I kind of mentioned him earlier. He's the guru of house hacking, and kind of been a distant mentor of mine in the house hacking space. You can find some of his content on YouTube as well, but he has a book called The House Hacking Strategy. I think if investing is new to you, or even, yeah, really just any kind of investing is new to you, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book that really changed how
Classic.
I view money. A lot of people have read it, but I think there's a few takeaways as far as the cash flow quadrant, and then learning what an asset is versus a liability. Most people think if they buy a home, that's an asset. Well, it's not. You're actually you could lose a lot of money if you buy a home, and there's definitely a wrong way and a right way to do it. So those are two that I would say, and I'll be thinking about a third.
Yeah, definitely. And then, you know, if someone's watching this and they want to get in contact with you, how can they find you and about your house hacking course that you also created.
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of social media, which has actually been a good change for me, but I still have a LinkedIn, so you can connect with me there. And then I actually, myself, along with one of my best friends, we created a course on house hacking to teach people how to do this because we've helped a few people do it already, and it's revolutionized their finances because the average salary in America, I think, is around $45,000 a year. And so if you just simply eliminate your living expense and do that on the side and do it somewhat passively, it doesn't take a bunch of time away from your day job. But if you can eliminate 30% of your expenses each month by doing it, that's a huge, huge win. And $45,000 a year is the average. Physical therapy, maybe it's 75. And if you eliminate your, let's say, $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, that's a huge pay raise that you just gave yourself without asking for a raise at your job,
Yeah.
without doing any of those things. And so, all that to say, we teach people how to do this. We created a course on it, and you can go to our website. It's floridahousehacking.com. You don't have to live in Florida for it, but yeah, we have a free ebook you can download from there and read a little bit more about it and see if it's a good fit for you. That's
Yeah.
something that I'm excited about.
And I'll post a link for everyone watching. I'll post it in the description below, so they'll have access to that too and stuff. So great stuff. I can't stop, like, whenever we have conversations, I can't stop thinking about the potential. Like, man, for anyone interested in getting in real estate, just go back to that basic concept of 4 different avenues of wealth creation.
Yeah.
Your asset or your investment is going to appreciate over time. That's great. And
Yeah.
then you can play the cash flow game, which Michael gave us multiple examples of benefits of just breaking even versus, generating or house hacking or using the strategy to generate cash coming in every month, whether it's offsetting expenses or whether it's cash flow positive to increase more money coming in for you. That's another thing. The tax
Mhm.
benefits is a whole nother lecture just alone. Just going over that stuff of depreciation and the benefits. It's like, oh man, that's so awesome. And some of those tips and tricks that you were kind of mentioning today is that was a great move. Like getting a house, a rental house for not putting 20% down, but only at 3 to 5% or anything less
Mhm.
than 20%. That's an awesome move. So great stuff here. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I would say that the other thing I'd add to that too is in addition to the wealth building aspects of house hacking, I think as physical therapists, and that's mostly who I think is going to be watching this, you you get into the field because you want to help people. And I think it's a really cool pairing of helping people too, not just being greedy and wanting to make money, but in what I do with the rent by the bedroom, I'm providing affordable housing for someone who their alternative is to go pay in and around downtown Orlando for a one bedroom apartment. It's $2,000 a month, and so I can
Yeah.
offer them a bedroom for way cheaper. Or if you're doing a duplex, you can offer a duplex for a lot cheaper than you can an apartment. And so you're providing affordable housing for someone, and making a win situation for them compared to what they normally would do. It's helping you cover your mortgage, hopefully, and then some, and cash flowing. And so it's not just a, hey, let me take and be greedy. It's a win-win situation for both parties, and that's where I find so much benefit from it. You're helping others too.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. But I can't let you go that early yet. You got to go through the Fab Five questions. Are you ready for the
Hit
Fab
me.
Five questions? You ready?
You call it the
What
Fab Five because my last name's Fabrick. Is that what that is?
that that would be pretty cool, but everyone gets the Fab Five questions at the end of the interview and stuff like that. So, what book is Dr. Fabric reading right now?
Ooh, the book I'm reading right now is called Secure Love. It's a book on attachment theory, and it's essentially how to navigate healthy conflict in relationship.
Oh, good.
So totally unrelated to business, but
Yep. So, what is your favorite online tool or app right now?
ooh, online tool or app. I just recently switched over to using Copilot, which is a online budgeting app, and it's so helpful, so good. It basically puts all your finances in one spot. You can hook up all your bank accounts to it. You can hook up all your investments to it. You can upload your mortgage payment to it, your property. It gives you like a full picture of all your finances, what your net worth is, what's going in, what's coming out each week. And yeah, super helpful.
Look at this dog that just showed up in the middle of the
I
podcast.
was about to say that.
That's Jeez. Anyway, um, ever since I talked about that Yuka app, I've been scanning everything on my phone, just looking at
Yes,
the quality of the food. So that's a great one that I'm on now too.
you could a good one.
How many hours do you get a night of sleep?
So I have a Whoop strap, and yeah, thanks for putting me onto it. Probably anywhere from 8 to 9 hours of total sleep. And then between the 4 phases of sleep cycle, I'm probably only getting like 6.5 to 7 of actual sleep.
Yeah, that's still
So
good. I'm a 6 to 8er. As long as I get my 6 to 8 hours of sleep in, I'm good. If I start like getting like a couple days ago, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, ready to go. I did fall asleep at 9, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, I got five some hours of sleep. I think I'm good. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning one night. Now
no way.
my recovery was in the yellow that day, but overall, I'm a 6 to 8er. As long as I get 6 to 8, I'm feeling pretty good.
Mhm.
What would you tell your 20-year-old self if you could go back in time?
Ooh, probably I'd tell him a couple things. Such a good question. I didn't expect that one. I tell him a couple things from a business standpoint and financial standpoint. I would say get started now rather than waiting. And
So true.
yeah, and maybe I'm better off than some starting earlier than some, but compared to others, I'm not. I started late, and so I'd say get started now, even if it's just a little bit, and compounding interest will do its thing.
Dude,
And
I was an idiot when I was in my 20s. I look back, I'm like, what an idiot. Just like saving $50 a week would have
yes,
exponentially created wealth already back in like my 20s. So yeah, I was
yeah,
so stupid. So I think you're doing really well in your 20s, even
mm,
though we're both in our 20s. We're both
we're both
pretty much
yeah.
the same age, young men. Last question. What do you think of the owner of Pursuit? His name rhymes with Bob Mueller. What do you think of the guy who owns Pursuit? Get going.
I think he's shredded. He's
That's
on
right.
he's on the path of Operation Physical Jackhammer.
Geez,
Huge
there you go.
biceps.
Nice. You must have a really cool boss. That's awesome. There you go. So perfect. Anyway, thank you for taking time out of your day to kind of go over this stuff. I think a lot of PTs need to think outside the box, and that's the whole purpose of this series is just getting us to think differently about creating wealth. And it's time for physical therapies to associate ourselves with wealth you
Mhm.
know um, and this will provide an awesome avenue for other PTs to kind of read up on your material, kind of look into it and see if they want to invest in house hacking or real estate. So everyone who's watching, we'll put Michael's link in the description below. And thanks again for taking time out of your day to kind of go over some of the stuff. Great stuff. And I think that a lot of PTs will definitely benefit from this.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Excited to talk about it and to continue the conversation.
Sounds good. We'll see you, Michael.
Take care.